Hi everyone, Ben Shaver. And as a business coach, one of the greatest tools that we have in our toolbox are assessments. And the one I like the most is the DISC and Values assessment. It's not a personality test. It basically takes a look at your behavioral styles and your values. So how are you going to show up on the job, but also why? And having those two pieces of information, yeah, it's great for you for self-awareness. It's basically a 54-page cheat sheet on yourself. But it's also great in the hiring process if you're trying to find somebody that might fit the culture or you want to show up in a certain way. It's also crucial for communication styles. So maybe you've got some conflict in your particular business and you want to help those people get past that. So today I'm going to do the DISC and Values debrief for you. So if you've taken it, you'll now have a good solid idea of what exactly this can do for you. If you have any questions, if you get to the end of this, we do 15-minute free consultations to answer any questions you might have if you want to take a little deeper dive. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Again, this is very much an overview. When we do these things in person, we can get a lot more in depth. But I want to go ahead and at least allow you the opportunity to see exactly how this tool can be used. So let's skip down here and talk a little bit about what the DISC is. So the DISC part of this, the D, the I, the S, and the C, basically it's talking about how you're made up in that behavioral style. And what they're talking about, I'm going to skip down here, is talking about, okay, the D, that's your decisive. So that is how you go about solving problems, how you make decisions. So if you're a high D, you're going to be a little bit more decisive, a little bit more assertive. You're quicker to get to it. I is how you interact with people. So where decisive is more about the problems, the interactive is going to be more about the people. So high I's tend to be a little bit more inspiring, persuasive. They like to be around people. S, this is going to be more about your pace. So S's tend to be a little bit more reserved. They're a little bit more patient. Kind of the opposite of a D. They're not necessarily quick to make those decisions. They generally like to have a little bit more information. C, this is how you go about procedures. So C is cautious. So it means kind of your preference for staying inside of the lines. High C's tend to be a little bit more detailed, tend to be a little more regulatory and follow procedures. So high C's tend to be a little bit more on the system side of things. So how we can use this, let me give you a good example, something that all of us know. If I could think of a better example, I would, but think about getting a group text. So let's say that you get a text from someone in the group and they say, hey, we all haven't been out to dinner in a while, would love to see everyone. The D will probably chime in first, the high D. And they would say something along the lines of, hey, that sounds great. Haven't seen everybody in a while. Let's do Thursday, 7:30 at Maggiano's. Very decisive. Get a plan going. Let's move, right? The I will chime in. They're obviously going to be more about the people. So what the I is going to talk about is, well, I noticed that Gary and Debbie weren't on this text. I'm going to add them. I'd love to see them. Looking forward to seeing everybody. Let me know where we're going and what time. The I is not necessarily thinking about the details, just the people. A high S, they're going to be a little bit more about, okay, let's think through this. But here's how they're probably going to respond. Haven't seen everybody in a while. Look forward to seeing you. 7:30 at Maggiano's on Thursday. Sounds great. Very agreeable. Then maybe 5 seconds later, we haven't done sushi in a while. Maybe 5 seconds after that, we also used to like to do Taco Tuesday. So they're going to kind of throw some options out there, but be a little bit more indecisive about it. The C, when they chime in, they're going to be more about the details, right? So they're going to say things along the lines of, hey guys, don't know if you know this, but Maggiano's Yelp score went from a 4.8 to a 4.6. Or they may give details like, hey, Tuesday night's also kids' night. So for those of you, wanting to spend an afternoon away from the kids, that may conflict a little bit. So that's an example, but understand the importance of all of that. Right? The high D got the ball rolling, probably may even close that loop at the end to finalize the plans. The I made sure all the people that needed to be involved were involved. The S slowed things down for a minute to make everybody think about the different details that might be out there or the different options out there. And then the C chimed in with those crucial details for some that people may need to know. So think about working on a project or working with people. All of that has a great deal of value. So it doesn't matter whether you're high D, high I, high S, high C. There's a lot of value in all of it. So moving down through here, you can see, actually go back up here. You're going to want to take a look at where you fall on this range. And I'm really quickly going to explain the difference between the colored bar and that gray bar that you see. So this colored bar that you see, so let's take the D for example. This person is a 17D. This is their natural style. So this is how they behave when they're the most comfortable. So this is their natural behavioral style. The gray bar, which is a 25 for them, so they adapt just a tiny bit, not a lot. That's how you behave when you feel like you're being observed. So when you know somebody might be looking at you. So an example of that might be, you're at the grocery store and your kid takes some hot dog buns and throws them down the hall. As a high D, you might want to get, angry at that and yell at your child, right? But you're in a grocery store and that's inappropriate. So you're going to temper that behavior. So that's an example of what that looks like. So hopefully that gives some idea of the adaptive style. The only time you should be concerned is if you're 20 points off one way or the other. So if you're a 46 here and you're 26 or below, you might just want to think about what's causing stress there. Or if you were a 66, that means you're adapting up, right? You're having to, say it's the I, having to be more involved with people. When you adapt 20 or more, it's generally uncomfortable for you. It's generally a stressor. So if you're taking this assessment and know that that's happening to you, that may be why. So here's how you can kind of look through this, whether for yourself or if you're doing this for an employee or someone that you want to have better communication with. Go back to this chart. So again, with the D for this particular person, they were a 17, which is low. So they're more in this mild and agreeable area. And they're not adapting really a whole lot on that. So when you get yours back and you're looking at that, look at where you might fall. If you were a 99D, you'd be demanding and driving. So for this person, they were a 46I, but they were adapting to a 10. So here's a good example of what that means. Generally at that 46, they're in the middle here, maybe poised and charming. But in whatever's happening in their life, and that may be personal things as well as business, they're having to be a little bit more matter-of-fact and reserved. So it's very important when we do coaching to talk through what may be causing that. And then let's just take a look at their S. 99S, highest you can get, and a 53 adaptive. So they're adapting a lot in their S. A lot of people do because environments just changed a lot over the past few years. So a lot of people are adapting in that S, but a 99 to 53. So this person prefers to be in a more patient and predictable environment, maybe even passive a little bit. But they're getting down here into this more steady, consistent, maybe even a little bit outgoing. And so that's probably causing them a significant amount of stress. And then their C, high C, again, 99 as high as you can go. And then they're adapting down to 81, which wouldn't, as a coach, concern me. But you can see here that they tend to be more cautious, more perfectionist, and systematic. So I want to pause here for a second and explain something. You are not necessarily a high C or a high S or a high D or a high I. You're a combination of all of these. And that's what makes you unique. There's more than 20,000 combinations. So you can't just say, okay, I'm a high S and I behave this way, because there's times your high C is going to come out, especially in this case. There's even times that a 17D may get a little aggressive and more assertive because they've got to do it, right? So don't just think because you're a low D or low something you don't have those traits. You do, okay? If you go down here to page 9, this one's good because a lot of people ask me, can you be a people person but be introverted? Absolutely. So if you're a high I and you're a high D, you tend to be an extrovert. If you're higher C and higher S, you tend to be more introverted. But here's where things get interesting. Ds and Cs tend to prefer jobs that have more tasks. I's and S's prefer jobs where there's more people involvement. So this is crucial. So we work with a lot of dental practices, and when they're out there looking to hire, say it's a front desk staff person, if they're out there verifying insurance, that's very task related. But if they're out there advocating for the patient or answering new patient phone calls, that's very people related. So you're going to want to know that, A, when you're hiring people, but B, if somebody needs to get some training or something along those lines. So if you're a high S, yes, you're definitely going to be a people person, but maybe a little more introverted. So what I like to do at this point, when I go over this with people, this is where we dive a little bit deeper. But if you just kind of read through each one of these pages, for your D, this is the area you want to look. So these are unique to you, these statements. That doesn't mean other people can't have them, but it just means looking at your entire disc, you want to take a look at. What I tell people to do, read through every statement, look at one of these and say, okay, this is an area where I bring value to myself, to the team. And then there's an area where I might be challenging the team or challenging myself. So I always ask for those two statements. So do that for yourself. You can take that time, write it down, pause this video if you're using it to go through as a guide, and really reflect and think about that, and maybe even have somebody to talk through these with. Same thing with the I. Which one of these would be important for you? You sincerely like to support and work with others. That may be one that you genuinely like. You tend to be slightly more reflective than talkative. So that may mean if you're in position of leadership and you need to step up and be more involved, that's something that might be challenging to you. So that would be an example there. Generally, when you get in these ones where you're higher, they're all going to look like they're of value to you, not a lot of challenging things, but that doesn't mean that they can't be. And then C, the same thing here. So go through those, take a look, and read through it and reflect on those. As you get through these kind of pages 14, I believe, through 22, this is great for you to be able to print this out, read this, go through it. It gives you a little bit about the natural style, as we talked about, and then your adaptive style. So there's areas where this person's S was adapting, I was adapting. This will kind of give some clarity around that. Ideas for being more effective. We all want to be more effective. So for this person, greater participation in team efforts and activities could help them. So you can use this to help coach your own employees, look at it for yourself. Again, go back and reflect on it. Ideas for staying more motivated. This is an area where a lot of the stuff you're going to know, it's great that somebody's actually telling you, that a neutral source is saying, hey, it's okay to be this way. That's why I love this over a lot of the other assessments, because it really allows you to dig it out and be subjective versus a lot of the other assessments just tell you this is who you are. This gives you some creative white space to think about it. Strength-based insights. Obviously, this is great to share with the team, share with the leadership above you, share with people that are important to you. Ideal job climate. Again, you want to know this because you want to make sure you're making those decisions for yourself. Areas for continual improvement. I always tell people, if you're not trying to improve, we're going to have to start over and find ways for you to learn and improve yourself, because that is where true leadership or effective partnerships, effective teamwork really comes from, is that ability to learn and improve. And then page 21, this is how you like to learn. So this is how you prefer to share knowledge or teach. So this is great if you're in a position where you've got to train people. This is good for you to know and the people that you're training to know. And then this is how you like to receive knowledge or learn. So this is great for somebody that's going to be training you or teaching you. So most likely a good coach knows, okay, here's our standard training that we do, but let me go in and look at how this person would better receive this information. That makes it a lot more effective. Page 22, so this is my favorite. A lot of our clients will use this, print these out, hang them up in their break rooms, because this is communication insights for others. So what this allows is things to do to effectively communicate with you. So for example, with this person, break the ice with a brief personal comment. They're not just about, let's get down to business. You might break some trust with that. And then it also has things to avoid to effectively communicate with you. And these are almost as valuable, if not more valuable. For him, it's don't offer promises you can't keep, or don't make decisions for others. These are the types of things that this person needs. So I'll give you a good example of this. Think back, to grade school when you had to do presentations. We have learned over the years, when we give presentations, the D's, they tend, and the I's for that matter, they tend to not want all the details. So if you're doing PowerPoint slides, limit those to 10 or under, because those people need that information that way. But an S and a C may want a little bit more information, especially the C. So what we've train people on doing is deliver the presentation, bullet point it, be brief, but then have some backup data for people like the C's. That way you're covering everybody in the room, since you may not know the behavioral styles. So that's always a great way to look at it. And then there's some sheets on here. This is more career coaching, but you can certainly write this down. Again, I think it's great to do this with somebody, debrief with somebody, and both kind of talk through all these different areas. What did you learn? Just kind of some areas where you can continue to improve your performance and stay motivated. And then really kind of set some goals for yourself. Think about your success. Think about where you want to go. I think it's great to have a personal and professional vision, and this can certainly help once you have this information in front of you. So hopefully that helps you out on the DISC. If you have any more questions on that, I can certainly help you. Please set up a call. I'm going to go ahead and jump into the values section. I won't spend as much time here. This is a little bit more self-explanatory. But the values, this is why you are motivated to use your talents based on different parts of engagement, different areas of values for you. So I'm going to jump right to those. So there's 7 dimensions. And I'm actually going to jump into this. Well, I'll go ahead and stick right here. So the aesthetic. So the aesthetic is that value for form, harmony, beauty, and balance. But how I like to think about this, especially in a work environment, is that work-life balance. So if somebody is a high aesthetic, that means they value that balance. So if I was hiring a traveling salesperson, I'm not 100% sure a high aesthetic would be who I'd be looking for. But somebody that does appreciate that work-life balance is also going to appreciate others inside of the team. Economic, this is more about money, practical results, getting a return. So people that are very heavy on ROI, yes, it certainly does mean you may value making a lot of money. But it's also more those practical results. I feel like it can almost mean time. Like you may look at unit of time as an area that's important to you. Hey, we spent an hour on this, we should be here type thing. Individualistic. So a lot of people are like, does this mean I'm selfish? Not at all. It just means that your strength is being able to work independently and you value uniqueness. So in other words, yes, you may want to work on your own, but you value what other people are able to bring, their uniqueness, and how everybody can collaborate. So even though it sounds selfish, it's actually more collaborative. Political, these are the people that want the control, the power, the influence. They want to be in charge. Altruistic, like it says, this is about altruism. This is about service and helping others. I mentioned before, we work with a lot of dentists. To kind of give you an example, if you had a dentist that's very altruistic, wants to help others, which, as a patient, I would love that. But from a business perspective, if they're low economic and high altruist, they might actually give away a lot of dentistry. Whereas if they're a low altruist and high economic, it might go the other way. They may try to upsell people to something they don't need. So just things now that you'll know and be able to ask questions around. Regulatory, so this is about structure, order, and routine. So basically what we're trying to get across there is people that are high regulatory are going to stay inside of the lines. They appreciate that you've got systems and processes, and they may at times create those systems and processes if they're not there because they need those kind of boundaries to be effective. And then finally, the theoretical, this is learning. This is knowledge. This is understanding. So somebody that's a high theoretical tends to value finding out information. If you've got a heavy research job, it's very important that people can do that. So for this particular person, they were very high theoretical. So usually people have 2 or 3 dimensions where they're outside of this gray box, and I'll explain what that is here in a minute. This particular person had 4, but they weren't way high on the economic. But you're going to be balanced on this. Your DISC, the D, the I, the S, and the C, that doesn't change a lot unless you have a life-changing event. It can over time for sure, but the values can change quite a bit, especially based on your environment and different things going on in your life. For example, during the pandemic, a lot of people, their economic went down, even though they should have been stressed about money and thinking about it. Their aesthetic went up because they're like, okay, I'm actually able to do some of these things normally I wouldn't get to do, but that may be adjusting back now. So you're going to be getting energy from somewhere. So what I like to do is look at these gray boxes It's not like the DISC. The DISC, the 50 was kind of the mean there. If you were high, you were over 50. Here, it's more this norm, this gray line here that we call the energy line, and that's different from all these different value assessments that have been taken. This is how they kind of see where everybody is, and some of these are bigger than others, bigger ranges. So the reason that's important is because you can't be high on everything because it would exhaust you. But these are the areas that you really need to be working in, right? So this particular person is such a high theoretical, they have to be in an environment, they have to be in a job where they are learning and that they are constantly able to scratch that itch. Again, regulatory is another big one for them. Political a little bit, economic a little bit, but definitely the theoretical and regulatory are ones that if I was leading this person, I would want to know what they need to make sure they're staying inside of that. So it'll go through and it'll talk about each one of these. So for them, they were an average aesthetic, so they're able to appreciate the benefit of harmony and balance, but they don't lose sight of the practical side of things. High economic, so yes, definitely economic gain might motivate them, and that'll help them maybe get through long assignments. And that could also be, if you're in the medical field, dental field, and you've got a long procedure, maybe money drives you, that might be helpful. Same with altruist. I kind of feel like economic and altruist conflict a little bit here because, hey, I really want to help this person, so I'm going to drive through this and put everything into it. This person was very low individualistic, so they have a very high service orientation, able to provide follow-through and support efforts. So individualistic are great people that kind of come in, get the ball rolling, can take care of things, but the lower individualistic you are, the more support you're providing. High political, so you're able to take the blame, but also the credit. If you're average political, kind of the same thing, but if you're really high political, very high political, you're going to want some credit, right? And you're going to want to make sure that things kind of run through you. This person, low altruist, so you won't be taken advantage of. You'll protect your own turf and the team and the organization. So again, having a business of high altruist is not the worst thing, but it can be from an economic standpoint if everybody's out there just giving things away. This person, very high regulatory. They were 63 regulatory, and you can see that's generally the lowest for most people as far as where they get their energy. So this person's very well disciplined. They follow standard operating protocols, and very rarely do you see somebody that's like a high I and a high regulatory, because those tend to conflict a little bit because high I's don't always pay attention to the details because, again, that's about the people, where regulatory is very much about the details. So this high regulatory definitely matched with this person's high C. And then very high theoretical, you're passionate about learning for learning's sake. So you're continually in learning mode, and you bring a very high degree of technical or knowledge-based credibility. So I want to pause here because this is a very good example of this. These values will help you if you're deciding if somebody's a culture fit. Please do not use this completely as deciding whether or not somebody's a fit or we're going to not hire them or not hire them. But understand that if somebody is a high theoretical, and I have several clients that learning is part of their guiding principles. We're always out there learning. We're always trying to improve. So they love it when somebody comes across and they're above average or high theoretical because they know they're going to get the value out of that person. So as you go through this report, there's 3 different pages here that talk about the general traits of each one of these dimensions. Motivational insights, training and learning insights, sort of like the DISC, and then continual improvement insights. Certainly wouldn't read these to you, but as you go through those, I would do like you did with the D, the I, the S, and the C, kind of highlight some areas where you see, hey, I provide a lot of value here or opportunity here. Here are some areas where I might be challenging the team or challenging myself, because the more you communicate this with people you care about, your coworkers, anybody you're really trying to improve communications with, this gets a lot easier and a lot better. So it goes through every one of those dimensions, showing all of that, all the way through the regulatory. And at the end, there are some kind of quizzes to help you figure out, where you're at, what's motivating you, because really, honestly, you're not going to be passionate about a job you're not motivated in. And so that's a lot of what we can find out about this assessment. So I hope this was helpful. Like I said at the beginning, if you have any questions or want to go a little bit deeper with this, please contact me or one of my colleagues, and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions for you. Thank you.